and welcome to the Go Time podcast here on the Voice of College Football Network, specifically the LSU channel here at the Voice of College Football. I'm your host, Grant Sasher. I bring you all the latest on LSU sports news. And on Monday we discussed uh, my predictions for LSU's offense for the depth chart. We're gonna do the defense depth chart and slash special teams next Monday. Of course, we do our live show every Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We also discussed my biggest concern with LSU's defense going into the Clemson game because I think the defense is going to be very good, but I have a concern about the chemistry of the defense going to a game against a Clemson team that has generally played with each other for a little bit. But then also we discussed the latest in LSU recruiting efforts as well. And speaking of recruiting, LSU may have another pipeline. And it's a very, very interesting one. And I think you could already consider a pipeline because LSU's got numerous bits of guys from the school, but those guys never really panned out, right? But you're starting to see a turn in the right direction. And that's Edna Karr High School, right? I think everyone here in Louisiana knows who Edna Karr is. But for you guys who may live out the state or may not be familiar with what's going on in high school football in the state of Louisiana, Edna Karr is one of the best high schools, if not the best high school football program currently right now in the state of Louisiana. The school was founded in 1964 as a junior high school before it became a senior high school, 9 through 12, in 1990, and a year later they established this football team, specifically in the year 1991, and it got off to a great start. Great start. I mean a fast start. Edna Karr then advanced to the state championship 2 years later and won it with a victory over Cecilia. And then they went on to go to the state championship 12 more times after that. They've been to the Dome 13 times in the program's history. Once again, the program was not established until 1991. So that is a 34-year stretch. So in the program's 34-year history, they've made it to the state championship 13 times. So that means if you divide 13 by 34, they have made it to the state championship 38. They'll make it to the state championship. They have a 38.2% chance of making it to the state championship, just given the fact that they've made it to the state championship 13 years out of the 35 years they have been in existence. They are an absolute dominant program. And they've had some decent players, right? Patrick Surtain, not the Patrick Surtain Jr. received for the Denver Broncos, but his dad went to Edna Karr, but he never went to LSU. He went to Southern Miss, then went to NFL, where he became a 3-time Pro Bowler. Had a solid career in the NFL. But besides that, LSU really hasn't had any guys from Edna Karr that really panned out. As a matter of fact, Karr has had all kinds of blue chip recruits, most notably Gerald Willis and Speedy Noyle. Speedy Noyle was the number one receiver in the country, went to A&M. His career never panned out. Gerald Willis was one of the top defensive lineman prospects in the country. His career never panned out. He first went to Miami. He first went to Florida, and then worked out. He went to Miami, had a decent career. Got drafted, but never really lived up to the hype coming out of high school. Neither did Speedy Noyle. And Speedy Noyle might be one of the biggest receiver bust, in recruiting history, just given the amount of hype he had going into A&M. And he had a solid first year at A&M his freshman year, had 583 yards or 5 touchdowns through 12 games, but he never had the same numbers. 226 yards and 2 touchdowns, 325 yards and 2 touchdowns. the next 2 years. Never really lived up to the hype, especially after he had a decent freshman campaign. So Karr really hasn't had a lot of great players. They've had a lot of great players come through the high school ranks, but when they got to the college ranks, they never really panned out. But I think things are starting to change. Uh, Things are really starting to change. Karr has had a lot of. They have had a lot of guys come through recently. They have a lot of blue chip recruits, and of course, that starts with the two with Aaron Anderson. Right, Aaron Anderson was a guy who was originally committed to LSU in the class of 2021, the 2020 recruiting cycle, but he decommitted and went to Alabama because Coach O got fired, and then he went to Alabama, stayed there for a year or two, didn't really work out. Then he came back. Well, he went there for a year, but didn't work out, and he came. Then he committed to LSU through the transfer portal, and then last year he was LSU's leading receiver, going into the season. Well, he's the LSU's leading receiver after the season, and then Teron Francis and Richard Anderson. Richard Anderson is the number one defensive lineman in the country, 5-star recruit. Aiden Hall, who I actually saw in this clip right here, had the pick early in the game. He is a top 50 recruit out of Edna Karr at safety. I mean, and it just really on this team alone, you also have Hayward Howard, who's committed to Texas, and really LSU's still going to keep recruiting him till early signing day. I mean, and they also have a couple other guys who are SEC caliber guys as well. So this school has really become a pipeline, really could become the next pipeline for LSU. And what I mean by pipeline is not the amount of guys that commit to LSU, right? It's about the guys who commit to LSU and then they produce, right? And it's not even just Aaron Anderson. Andre Anthony was a guy who was a solid defensive end for LSU. In 2020, he actually had 5 sacks, and the next year, in his first 3 games, had 3.5 sacks before he tore his ACL in the 3rd game of the year. And he was on pace to become have a really great senior campaign. And guess what? He was still drafted in the 7th round. He was, NFL teams still thought he was a guy they could still draft. He was drafted in the 7th round, and of course, his NFL career didn't last long. He's not actually the head coach at Bonneville High School in the New Orleans area. He's my age, so maybe I'm not doing things right. Maybe I should join become a high school coach or something. But then Aaron Anderson comes in, and he's had a solid junior season last year, and he has a chance to be drafted this year, and really has a chance to elevate his game. Teron Francis is a freshman currently on LSU's team right now. He could be something special. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get this year, but during the spring, he had some good moments. And so on and so forth. And then also, in this recruiting class coming up, Richard Anderson and Aiden Hall are becoming guys where they could be studs. And really, Richard Anderson is the number one defensive lineman in the country. Right? 6'5", 330. I mean, he is just an absolute beast. And he stands out. Same thing with Aiden Hall. He stands out. And I know LSU is making a huge effort into making sure Karr stays a pipeline to LSU. Bryce Brown, who's the head coach of Karr, he's a guy, he was at LSU's spring practice regularly. He was up there talking with the recruiting personnel and coaches, you name it. Up where we're filming at the team performance center. Right, they actually had a little balcony where the media could watch practice, and he was in the room inside, chatting up with recruiting personnel, maybe a former player or two, coaches, you name it. And so LSU is making a great effort to make sure that Karr is a pipeline to LSU. We've already seen it with Destrehan, right? With Jay Jettis. there's been a lot of guys, just your hand, who have committed to LSU in the past 3 years, right? Kalaj Cobbins, was somebody that he's kind of the first domino to fall to LSU, and then this past recruiting cycle, you had Jace Thomas and you had Philip Wright. I almost call him Philly. That's his nickname. But Philly Wright and Jace Thomas are both on LSU's roster right now. They're going to be true freshmen this year. And then next year, you'll have Jabari Mack on campus. Jabari Mack has been committed to LSU since earlier this year. And he has locked down his recruitment. So, I mean, Destrehan's a lock. Then, I mean, historically, you've also had West Monroe. There's been a lot of different populations. You can name it. Catholic of Baton Rouge is another one. I think Catholic of Baton Rouge and Destrehan have been the ones that have produced a lot of LSU athletes. And most recently, right, Catholic has produced Clyde and Darius Guys and Emery Jones, right? Jacob Bradford, who's coming on campus right now. 4-star safety. He went to Catholic of Baton Rouge. So Sheldon Sampson, although he's not on the team anymore, was at Catholic of Baton Rouge. So Catholic of Baton Rouge and Destrehan have been the two biggest pipelines for LSU. Karr has been kind of a pipeline, right, in terms of, getting guys on campus, but can they produce? But it looks like they have a chance to do so. There's been a lot more guys. There's been a lot of blue chip recruits coming out of Karr in recent years, and it's only a matter of time before some of them break through. We've already seen a guy like Andre Anthony had some decent success at LSU. We've already seen Aaron Anderson currently have some success at LSU, but can Karr be the next pipeline at LSU? I think that's a great question. It still has to play out, but right now, it is looking like it. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the LSU at the Voice of College Football YouTube channel. It's for free, so you don't have to worry about paying a single penny. And then also, make sure to click on the bell because it will notify you whenever we release a new video. And then also, it will let you know when we go live. Once again, we go live every Monday. 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to check that out. Got a lot of great content coming to you in the next month or so. We got SC Media Days in a couple weeks. Of course, we're going to have a lot of recruiting news coming through here. So, yeah, there's that. So, you guys have a good one, and go Tigers.